Okay, so get ready for this one because today we're going to be diving into some pretty mind-bending stuff.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
talking future-seeing technology, quantum entanglement,
Yeah.
and a project called
This is going to be good.
Quantum Starlight.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, and we're going right to the source with this one. We've got excerpts from an actual document about Project Quantum Starlight.
Wow, so we're getting the inside scoop.
Yeah, the real deal.
Yeah.
So let's jump right in. What exactly is Project Quantum Starlight, and what are they trying to do?
Well, the basic idea is they're claiming to use this device called the ARV device.
ARV device.
Yeah. And these things called PSI chips to actually gather information from the future.
From the future. Hold on, I need to catch my breath. That's
Yeah.
a pretty big claim.
Oh, it's huge. It's
Yeah.
definitely pushing the boundaries of what we think is possible. And to make it even more interesting,
It gets better.
oh yeah, they're specifically focused on using this future information for stock trading.
So they want to predict the stock market using some kind of quantum time machine. Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Let's break this down. How does this ARV device supposedly work?
Well, it all comes down to quantum entanglement, which
A
is...
bite of that. It's like when two particles are linked together even if they're miles apart.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You got it. It's like they're connected by some invisible force.
Change one and the other changes instantly. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance.
Yeah, spooky is a good word for it. So how does Project Quantum Starlight use entanglement to see the future?
Well, they're suggesting that the future actually exists as a kind of hologram, a magnetic hologram.
A hologram. Okay, now you're really losing me. How can the future be a hologram?
Well, think of it this way. Every event, every choice, every action creates a kind of magnetic ripple in this hologram. Each ripple represents a piece of information about the future.
So each magnetic ripple is like a snapshot of what might happen.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And they believe the ARV device can tap into these magnetic fields and decode the information within them. But how can they access information from the future? Shouldn't that be impossible?
That's where things get really interesting. They suggest that at the quantum level, time doesn't behave the same way we experience it. Back-in-time effects, which seem impossible to us, are actually quite common in the quantum realm.
So they're saying time travel is possible at the quantum level.
Not in the traditional sense, no physical objects moving through time, but information. They believe information can flow backwards in time, and they've designed the ARV device to act as a receiver for that information.
So it's like a quantum antenna picking up signals from the future.
That's a great analogy. And they even use the term retrocausality to describe this phenomenon.
Retrocausality.
Yeah.
So an effect can happen before its cause.
Exactly. It's a concept that really stretches our understanding of time. And they even mention the movie 57 Seconds as an example of how changing the past can have ripple effects in the present.
Okay, I've seen that movie. It's pretty mind-bending. So we've got this holographic future quantum entanglement and information potentially traveling backwards in time. What role does consciousness play in all of this?
Well, Project Quantum Starlight believes that consciousness is absolutely crucial for the ARV device to work.
So it's not just about the technology itself, but also about the person using it.
Precisely. They're suggesting that the user's consciousness needs to be in a specific state in order to receive information from the future.
Okay, but what does that even mean? How can someone's consciousness be ready to receive information from the future?
They claim that factors like the Schumann resonance, which is the frequency of Earth's electromagnetic field,
The Earth's electromagnetic
it
field.
can actually affect our consciousness and our ability to access this information.
Are they saying that the Earth's energy can influence our ability to see the future?
That's what they're proposing. They believe that certain conditions like specific magnetometer readings, cosmic ray activity, even seasonal changes can all create more optimal states for the ARV device to function.
Wow, so it's not just about the device itself, but about the state of the user and even the environment.
Exactly. It's like all of these things need to be in sync for it to work. And get this, they claim the device works best outdoors.
Outdoors.
Because of quantum entanglement effects happening in nature, specifically through photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis.
Yeah.
You're telling me plants are involved in seeing the future.
It's definitely one of the more intriguing claims. They don't go into deep scientific detail, but they suggest that being surrounded by nature, where this natural entanglement is happening, enhances the device's ability to tap into those future magnetic fields.
So it's not that the plants themselves are seeing the future, but that the process of photosynthesis somehow strengthens the entanglement effect.
That's how they're framing it. They believe that being in nature creates a more conducive environment for the ARV device to operate.
Okay, so we've got optimal conditions, the Schumann resonance, and now photosynthesis thrown into the mix.
Yeah.
What happens when things aren't so optimal? Can outside disturbances affect the ARV device?
They actually refer to it as interference. They acknowledge that both environmental and emotional disturbances, whether individual or collective, can disrupt the device's function.
So if there's a lot of chaos and negative energy, it's harder to get a clear signal from the future.
That's the idea. They believe that these disturbances disrupt the Schumann resonance and the Earth's magnetometer, creating a kind of static that interferes with the flow of information from the future. They argue that during these times, the collective human psyche is less coherent.
So it's almost like the collective mood of the planet can influence the accuracy of the ARV device.
That's what they're suggesting. They believe that when there's a lot of fear, anxiety, or discord in the world, it creates a kind of energetic noise that makes it harder to tap into the future.
Okay, so we've got future holograms, time-traveling information, the collective mood of the planet, and photosynthesis all playing a part in this. Where do our brains fit into all of this?
Well, interestingly, they bring up research suggesting that consciousness itself might rely on quantum entanglement. There's been a recent brain experiment where scientists believe they may have actually observed entanglement happening in the brain.
Wait, are they saying our brains could be quantum entangled? That's a pretty big leap.
It's definitely a cutting-edge idea, and they acknowledge that it's still very much in the theoretical realm. But they tie it back to the ARV device, suggesting that because the device itself supposedly exhibits entanglement effects, it's able to resonate with and potentially receive information from the future through a connection with the user's entangled brain.
So it's like the device and the user's brain are on the same entanglement wavelength, allowing them to communicate across time.
That's the implication. And they even briefly mentioned the possibility of backward time travel simulations, which researchers have shown to be theoretically possible using quantum mechanics.
Okay, so we've got entanglement potentially happening in our brains, a device that might be able to tap into that, and now the suggestion that we could simulate backward time travel. I'm starting to feel like I'm in a science fiction movie.
It does push the boundaries of what we currently understand about time and consciousness. But Project Quantum Starlight goes even further, introducing another fascinating element, solar neutrinos.
Neutrinos? Those tiny particles from the sun. What do they have to do with any of this?
Well, recent research has confirmed that these neutrinos are, you guessed it, entangled. And not just any entanglement happening in distant supernovae, massive exploding stars billions of light years away.
Entangled neutrinos from exploding stars? That's pretty mind-blowing. But how does Project Quantum Starlight connect that to their technology?
They claim that these entangled neutrinos carry special particles which are captured and retained within the ARV device's PSI chips. These chips, they believe, play a key role in accessing future information, although they don't explain exactly how.
Okay, so we've got these PSI chips loaded with entangled neutrinos from supernovae. It sounds like they're building a time-traveling supercomputer, but how do they decide when to use the device? Do they just pick a random day and hope for the best?
It's actually more strategic than that. They initially believed the first quarter phase of the moon was optimal for using the ARV device due to increased entanglement effects happening in nature at that time. But further research led them to discover what they call time gate dates, specific times when the results are most accurate regardless of the lunar phase.
Time gate dates. So they're saying there's specific windows in time when it's easier to see the future.
That's their claim. And interestingly, they believe that photosynthesis might be stronger during these time gate dates, again linking back to the idea that natural processes play a role in all of this.
Okay, I'm adding time gate dates to my list of new vocabulary words. But what exactly is the goal of Project Quantum Starlight? Are they just trying to prove that seeing the future is possible, or is there a bigger purpose?
According to the document, their aim is to increase the frequency of receiving accurate information from the future from 3 days a month to at least 3 days a week. And they specifically mention using this information for stock trading.
So they want to predict the stock market using future-seeing technology.
Yeah.
That's a pretty ambitious goal. But how do they measure the accuracy of the information they're receiving?
They use something called a quantum signal strength chart to measure various environmental factors before each session, ensuring optimal conditions. They emphasize the importance of the PSI chips and their ability to hold and discharge those solar neutrinos we talked about, which they believe is crucial for retrieving future information.
So they're trying to create the perfect conditions to get the strongest signal from the future.
Exactly. And they go even further, suggesting that there's this concept of coherence that plays a role not just in their technology, but in the universe as a whole. They claim this coherence is observed in various fields from physics to biology to social systems, suggesting a deep interconnectedness at a fundamental level.
Coherence, so like everything being in sync. But how does that tie into Project Quantum Starlight and seeing the future?
They suggest that humanity is transitioning to a more interconnected system, but this transition is causing periods of stress and what they call global incoherence. They believe the ARV technology can actually detect future human emotions and intentions on a global scale, suggesting the existence of a collective consciousness that transcends space and time, especially during those time gate dates.
Whoa, a collective consciousness that could be detected across time. It's a pretty big concept to grasp.
It definitely challenges our conventional understanding of consciousness. They even mention a real-world organization, the Global Coherence Initiative, or GCI, which is actively monitoring Earth's magnetic resonances. Project Quantum Starlight seems to be drawing parallels between the GCI's work and their own research, suggesting a link between these global magnetic fields and the collective human psyche.
So they're saying that our individual consciousness is somehow connected to this global field, which can be measured and potentially even influenced.
That seems to be their hypothesis. And they believe that during those time gate dates, this connection becomes even stronger, making it easier to access information from the future, especially information related to collective human emotions and intentions.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Future holograms, entanglement, the Schumann resonance photosynthesis, time gate dates of global consciousness. My head is spinning. What does all this mean for the future if Project Quantum Starlight is actually onto something? And what about the ethical implications of all this?
Those are the big questions, and ones that we'll definitely be exploring further as we dive deeper into the source material. The implications of being able to access future information, especially for things like stock trading, are enormous. And the idea of a collective consciousness raises all sorts of questions about free will, determinism, and the nature of reality itself.
Well, I don't know about you, but I definitely need a moment to process all of this.
Me too.
We'll be back in a moment to delve deeper into Project Quantum Starlight and the potential implications of this technology both for individuals and for society as a whole. Okay, so we've just scratched the surface of this Project Quantum Starlight, future holograms, time-traveling information, the potential for entangled brains.
This wild stuff.
It's a lot to take in, but I think it's time to kind of dig a little deeper into the so what of it all. If this technology is even remotely possible, what are the implications?
Well, one of the biggest questions that jumps out is the ethical side of using future information, especially for something like stock trading.
Right. Imagine having a glimpse of tomorrow's market trends.
You can make a fortune.
Yeah, but at what cost? It does seem like that could create some pretty unfair advantages, right?
Oh, absolutely. And what about the potential for manipulating the market if enough people have access to this kind of information?
Yeah, that's a whole other can of worms.
It is. The document actually touches on the idea of individual responsibility, suggesting that each person's actions and intentions contribute to this global field they keep mentioning.
So it's not just about predicting the future, but about understanding that we all play a role in shaping it.
Exactly. They seem to believe that if we all make an effort to be more mindful and intentional, it could lead to a more positive and coherent future.
That's a pretty powerful concept.
It is. It really is. They seem to be advocating for a shift in perspective from seeing ourselves as separate individuals to recognizing our interconnectedness, not just with each other, but with the planet and maybe even the cosmos.
Okay, but let's be realistic for a moment. How much of this is actually based in hard science? I mean, we're talking about seeing the future entanglement in our brains, a collective consciousness. It all sounds a bit like science fiction.
You're right to be skeptical. A lot of what Project Quantum Starlight proposes is definitely pushing the boundaries of current scientific understanding. But even if some of their claims turn out to be a bit far-fetched, the research they're doing into these concepts could still have significant implications for other fields.
Like what? What kind of real-world applications could come from this research, even if they never actually crack the code of seeing the future?
Well, think about the potential advancements in fields like medicine communication, even our understanding of the universe itself. If we can figure out how to harness and control quantum entanglement, who knows what might be possible.
It could revolutionize everything.
It really could. And I think that's a key takeaway here. It's not just about the destination, but about the journey of discovery. Even if some of these concepts seem like science fiction today, who knows what the future holds?
Yeah, well said. I'm feeling a lot more optimistic about the future now, even if it's not the one predicted by a time-traveling machine.
I think that's the beauty of scientific inquiry. It's about constantly pushing the boundaries of what we know and embracing the unknown. Who knows, maybe someday we will be able to see into the future, but even if we can't, the pursuit of that knowledge will undoubtedly lead us to some pretty extraordinary discoveries along the way.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from the nitty-gritty details of Project Quantum Starlight to the broader philosophical questions. It raises, what are some of the key takeaways you think our listeners should walk away with?
I think the most important thing is to remain curious and open-minded. We live in a time of incredible scientific advancement, and our understanding of the universe is constantly evolving. What might seem impossible today could be commonplace tomorrow. Remember, even the wildest ideas often have roots in real scientific exploration.
That's a great point, and I think it's also important to remember that even if some of these ideas seem out there are real scientists and researchers out there exploring them, pushing the boundaries of what we thought possible.
Absolutely. That research is incredibly valuable, even if it doesn't always lead to the outcomes they initially envisioned. Who knows what unexpected discoveries might emerge along the way.
And it's a good reminder that we're all connected, not just to each other, but to this planet and the cosmos as a whole. What we do here on Earth has ripple effects, and our actions and intentions matter.
That's a beautiful thought. It really highlights the importance of personal responsibility and the idea that we all have a role to play in creating a better future, whether we can see into it or not.
So where do we go from here? What are some things our listeners can do if they're interested in exploring these ideas further?
Well, the Global Coherence Initiative, which we mentioned earlier, has a wealth of information on their website about the interconnectedness of consciousness and the planet. You can also find lots of articles and research papers on quantum entanglement consciousness studies and even those backward time travel simulations we talked about.
And if you're looking for more entertaining exploration of these concepts, I highly recommend checking out the movie 57 Seconds. It's a thought-provoking film that explores the idea of retrocausality and the potential consequences of manipulating time.
Oh, that's a good one. It really gets you thinking about the complexities of time travel and the butterfly effect.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today, but before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought to ponder. If we could actually tap into the future, what responsibility would we have to change it? And what would it even mean for something to be predetermined if we could see it coming?
That's a profound question, and one that I don't think has a simple answer. It's something we'll each have to grapple with as our understanding of time consciousness in the quantum world continues to evolve, but it's certainly a question worth pondering.
Absolutely. And I think that's the perfect note to end on. Stay curious, keep exploring, and never stop questioning the nature of reality itself. You know, as we've been talking about Project Quantum Starlight and this whole idea of accessing future information, it's really got me thinking, what if the future isn't this fixed, predetermined thing? What if it's more fluid, constantly changing based on the choices we make in the present?
That's a really interesting thought. It kind of challenges that classic notion of a static timeline where everything is set in stone. It brings to mind the butterfly effect.
Right.
That idea that even the smallest action can have these huge unforeseen consequences down the line.
Exactly. So maybe what Project Quantum Starlight is tapping into isn't the future, but rather a range of potential futures, constantly shifting and evolving based on our individual and collective choices.
Yeah, that's a much more empowering perspective, isn't it? It suggests that we're not just passive passengers on this preordained journey through time, but active participants in shaping our own destiny.
It really does. It kind of makes the whole idea of future seeing less about knowing what's going to happen and more about gaining insights into possible outcomes, helping us make more informed decisions in the present.
Right. It becomes more about understanding the flow of possibilities, recognizing potential pitfalls, and maybe even identifying opportunities that we might not have seen otherwise.
That actually makes me feel a bit better about the whole thing. It's less about fate and more about using information as a tool for navigating the complexities of life.
Yeah, and it aligns with that theme of personal responsibility that Project Quantum Starlight emphasizes. If our choices truly do influence the future, then it becomes even more crucial to be mindful of our actions and their potential ripple effects.
Yeah, it raises the stakes in a way, but also highlights the power we each have to create a better future, not just for ourselves, but for everyone.
I think that's a really important point. Even if the technology itself never fully materializes this exploration of quantum entanglement, consciousness and interconnectedness can still be incredibly valuable. It encourages us to think differently about our place in the world and our responsibility to each other and the planet.
So even if we never develop the ability to see the future with perfect clarity, this whole line of inquiry could still have a profound impact on how we approach the present.
Absolutely. It's about expanding our awareness, challenging our assumptions about reality, and recognizing that we're all part of something much larger than ourselves. It's about shifting from a mindset of what's going to happen to me to a mindset of what can I do to contribute to the future I want to see.
That's a really powerful shift in perspective. It moves us from a place of fear and uncertainty to a place of agency and empowerment.
Exactly, and I think that's what makes this whole topic so fascinating, even if some of the claims seem a bit out there. It challenges us to think bigger, to question what we believe to be true, and to embrace the mystery and wonder of the universe.
Well said. This deep dive has definitely taken us on quite a journey, stretching our imaginations and prompting us to think about time consciousness and reality in new ways.
It's been an incredible exploration, for sure, and I think it's a perfect example of how even the most speculative ideas can spark important conversations and lead to new insights.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to encourage our listeners to keep exploring these concepts. Read more about quantum entanglement. Check out the work of the Global Coherence Initiative. Maybe even watch that movie 57 Seconds, again with a fresh perspective.
And most importantly, stay curious. The world is full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered, and who knows what incredible discoveries lie just beyond the horizon of our current understanding.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us on this mind-bending adventure into the world of Project Quantum Starlight and the possibilities of future-seeing technology. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.